Hi everyone, so today we have an election prediction between Bernie Sanders versus John Kasich. So we are going to reset the map into a blank map. We are going to go to Bernie Sanders and we are going to change this into John Kasich. So we just need to go ahead and inspect that to change it so there we are. So there's got John Kasich. So I'm also going to use some information like I did with my one with Joe Biden. So right now Trump's approval rating among adults is 40% approved, 53.4% disapproved. If you go into all polls, it's better for Trump, 41.6 approved, 52.9 disapproved, and out of likely or registered voters, it's even better. He's approved by 43% of the country, so that's pretty good for him. Looking at John Kasich's favorable, unfavorable numbers, it's pretty good, but it's really nothing compared to Bernie Sanders' favorable, unfavorable numbers. It's very, very good for Bernie Sanders, plus 30 in one poll, so that's pretty good. So let's just go back to the election predictions. So we know, let me just change this to safe and toss up. So just while I fill in the safe states. So we know, let me just go ahead and give Bernie Sanders every single state that Clinton won in 2016. I definitely do not see Bernie Sanders falling back on that in a sense, even if it's against John Kasich. Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, DC. I'll come back to Pennsylvania, Illinois, Virginia, and this is where we were. So 232. Now let's go and fill in some Kasich states. So we know all across the Midwest, this is Kasich territory. Republicans do very well in these areas. I'll come back to Indiana because Mike Pence is not a factor and Bernie Sanders' Midwestern appeal would need to be factored in. But Ohio I would rate as safe red, John Kasich. Actually, that would only be leaning or likely. So, yeah. So I'm going to go through an idea by Let's Talk Elections by doing it through poll closings. So we'll start out with Indiana. I would rate this as likely for John Kasich. And my reasoning behind that is with Mike Pence not on the ballot, it's not safe red, and with Bernie Sanders' Midwestern appeal, not necessarily going to help John Kasich, but still I think it will hold its Republican identity. I think that would be likely for John Kasich, especially he's coming from the area. That is, I believe, the only 7 o'clock state. Moving on to 7:30, we have Ohio and North Carolina. Ohio would be likely for John Kasich. He is from that state. And looking at his favorable, unfavorable numbers, he's plus 9.1 in the average. So, and especially with his home state, it's probably pretty good for him. And then going over to the state of North Carolina, John Kasich will do very well with conservatives, and he will not alienate minorities, and he might keep some minorities home. Donald Trump got minorities out to vote for Clinton, but it obviously wasn't enough. This is leaning for John Kasich. And going up to Maine, we'll go on to the 8 o'clock hour poll closings. This is pretty much likely for Bernie Sanders. He's from the area. The only person who could really win up there is Trump, and with his appeal, Kasich's appeal is not Trump's appeal. It's pretty different, to be totally honest. Going down to Pennsylvania, this is pretty much likely or leaning for Bernie Sanders. Now, my reasoning behind Pennsylvania is that Bernie Sanders has a great Rust Belt appeal, and the only person who can make Pennsylvania even competitive is Trump. Kasich does not have that appeal. I need to hammer that over. yes, Bernie Sanders definitely has that appeal. And looking at his favourability numbers, they are extremely well. The only polls that have him unfavourable is this poll, and it's by 3, this poll by 1, this poll by 7, this poll by 5. But all the other polls, look, there's even some polls that have him plus 30. So that's pretty good. And Kasich's approval rating is pretty high. However, it's still not as good as Bernie Sanders. And especially Bernie Sanders will get many people out to vote because of Trump's unfavorability. In the state of Pennsylvania, he's losing a lot of ground, as you can see from the approval ratings. Going down to the state of Georgia, I forgot to fill this in. This would be likely for John Kasich. He can definitely bring out the conservative base in Georgia, and Bernie Sanders not necessarily the best minority appeal. Going down to the state of Florida, pretty much this should be a pure toss-up. I will leave it as a pure toss-up for now. I will come back to the state of Florida, but going over to the state of Wisconsin and the state of Michigan, both of these are pretty much going to go to Bernie Sanders with his appeal. It will go to Bernie Sanders pretty much. The only person who can win there again is Trump. Not necessarily the best for John Kasich. And going over to, we'll continue with the 8 o'clock hour. Missouri will go to leaning for John Kasich. Actually, it would be likely for him, just based off its demographics. And going over into the 9 o'clock hour, we have the state of Arizona. Arizona is pretty much conservative territory. John Kasich can really drive up that conservative vote, but Bernie Sanders can't drive up the minority vote in the way that Clinton and Obama and Biden can. I see John Kasich winning in the state of Arizona like he won in the state of Georgia. And going on into 10 p.m. Iowa, that would go to Bernie Sanders pretty much because he definitely does better with the rural voters. And the only person who can really make it competitive, Iowa, it was a safe Dem state until it flipped just once for Trump. I think Iowa will retain its identity and go to Bernie Sanders. Going down to the Sunshine State of Florida, this is a pure toss-up. I guess I will leave it like that. And this kind of ties into the two candidates' approval ratings. Bernie Sanders definitely a much better spread than John Kasich's, and Trump's approval rating not necessarily the best. And if you look down, Obama's approval rating at looks like day 500, it would be. Currently, Obama in day 501 was approved 81% and Trump is approved 41%, and he even won in 2012. And if you look at, if you look at George W. Bush's approval rating, it's definitely pretty good compared to Trump's, and at Bill Clinton's, very good compared to Trump's. And we can go back, but this is not very helpful for right now. So, and if you look at the map, 285 electoral votes for Bernie Sanders, 224 for John Kasich. Thank you for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all in the next one.